Well, ladies and gents, welcome to the Black Country. The Black Country with blue skies. Kev, did you arrange the weather?
Yes, I sorted it for you.
Did you? I tell you what, there's nothing this man can't do. Blue skies, sunny skies, it's beautiful. It is the end of February, and we are, of course, with the very wonderful Mr. Kevin Taylor. That can only mean two things, everybody. Firstly, greenfinches. Secondly, mosaics. Who knew? Well, if you follow Kev on Facebook, you would know, because the mosaics are on there. But Kev, we're going to talk predominantly about greenfinches.
That's what I'm known for, really. So
yeah. And you're very interesting, and I say that with a great deal of affection. Very interesting setup. This is a proper bird keeper's setup. We have got a shed in here that Kev set himself a challenge of doing, building for an amount of money. And I tell you what, mate, the photos you took don't do it justice, because it's bloody good. Right. It's a bloody good little setup. Yeah. So it is. It's a proper bird keeper's setup, this, everyone. We'll talk greenfinches. We'll talk what a good one looks like. We'll talk all kinds of husbandry of them. You're preparing for the breeding season now, Kev. So we'll have a close-up of that as well. And for any of you who follow Kev, you'll know that he's a very, very clever man with a microscope.
Oh, right. Yes, I can use a microscope.
You are a very clever man as well, Kev.
Oh, there you go.
A very clever man with a microscope. So we'll have a look at that. So listen, everyone, you know what to do. It's going to be an epic, and I can feel it in my bones. Grab yourself a cuppa, sit back, and as always, enjoy the show. Well, listen, everybody. We are in the first of Kev's bird rooms. Kev, how many are there?
I don't know.
And you might think Kev's taking the mickey when he says he doesn't know, but we'll go for a little wander in a while. We'll wander through the bird rooms, and it's fair to say that they are. It's a very organic setup. This used to be a koi pond at one stage.
Yeah, it was a koi pond.
Yeah. So like many bird keepers, Kev sort of started out with koi, but actually with pigeons and with
rice pigeons. Yeah.
With all kinds of other birds as well. Birds of prey. There's been a whole collection, Kev, of various different.
Looked after the penguins on the zoo, Matt.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
Jesus, there's more sides to this man than a dice. I didn't know that. Did you look after the penguins? Where was that?
A local zoo.
Local zoo? You were the penguin keeper?
Well, but snowy owls. I worked in the tropical house, the hummingbirds. And
did you?
Yeah, I spent about a year or 2 years on the zoo.
Why did I not know that, Kev, before we came here?
I don't know, it's just popped in my head.
Well, there you go. Zoologist. In fact, ladies and gents, we've got David Attenborough with us. We've got the Black Country zone.
Toucans, I did toucans.
Toucans?
And some lads was coming up, talking to the toucans. Was it Guinness, was it?
Yeah.
We were going Pointer Guinness. Well, I was behind the next box. Yeah. So I started to say, Pointer Guinness, and I was fetching the... So I was stuck behind the next boxes for about 3 hours, Matt.
Brilliant. Well... So, Kev, why the greenfinch? I guess that's a really open question, isn't it? What drew you to the greenfinch?
Well, I don't know. Was you on the old forums, Matt, before Facebook?
I think I possibly was.
Right. Well, it was an Irish forum, Paul Gervin's forum, and a laddie was doing a lot of winning in Ireland, Noel Flynn, and he was like yourself. He was posting videos, and I thought I like them, But I'd say that was it. People like you and Oliver and the rest of it's a really good thing, because that's what got me into greenfinches. Yeah. The next thing was to source the greenfinches. I got in touch with through the forum with Rich Lawson.
Yeah.
Good as gold. He said, "Come and see me." He didn't tell me he lived on the other side of the world, but there I was, 4.5 hours later down Rich's. But I think I come back with a few birds, but in them, he just bought an old stud, Richard, dom-footed stud. And he let me have 2 hens, what dom bred. And he let me have a cock from Nowflin. And one of the cock from Nowflin paired to the dom-footed, one of the dom-footed hens. I was breeding half decent birds, but over the next couple of years or so, I got to a certain level. I couldn't push on from that. And Rich said, "Why don't you get in touch with Mark? See if Mark will let you." He's Rich's friend, Mark Ashby. And me and Mark got along. I mean, he's a really funny guy. I mean, a lot of people don't think, but he's really a funny guy, and he's really blunt. But I said, "Mark, I'm going to pack these up. I can't get any further with these." He said, "Come and see me." He said, "Bring your best bird and whatever." And I went over there, and he'd got aviaries full of good birds, mate, Mark had. He'd been in the greenies for 30 years. And he'd always done, I mean, he'd done well in numbers as well, you know, he'd put 4 or 5 up in the classes. And as I visited him, I took a photo of that day, I still got it somewhere. There was a greeny hen at the end of the aviaries, like, you know, on a shelf. I said, "That's a nice bird." And he said, "That's for you." I thought, "Christ, that's some bird to be giving away." Like, I said, "How much would that bird cost, Mark?" He said, "That bird would cost a lot of money." He said, "But it's out for sale." He said, "It's for you." And I was so grateful, you know, because you knew the quality of the bird. It took me back a bit, you know what I mean, because I never had nothing of that quality to them. I bought her back, and her first nest bred a Stafford winner, and the nest mate to that, the brother, was best adult hard bill at the Bernard show.
Right.
So the first 2 young straight away. But following that, the young was breeding winning birds. So pre-potent bird. And I think the all British win, that was a grandchild.
Right.
So the old stud, and I really mean this, the old stud is built around the bloodline of their hen.
Yeah.
The null-footed, null-fling cock and dom-footed hen.
Yeah.
You know, they am getting a little bit close now. Nice one. They am getting a little bit close now, but we're doing okay. We're still getting a few nice birds.
Yeah. No, you are, and that, and was that what drove you into the showing, or had you been showing before that?
I got a friend who showed red factor canaries, and he popped in and he said, "Why don't you show at the local CBS, like, you know, Wolverhampton?" And I'd bred a nice greenie cock. I mean, I'd bred 70 greenies, but there was only one any good, and that's, you know. Anyway, I took this and I won Best British at Wolverhampton, which I did do for the following 2 or 3 years, you know what I mean? So and then you get the bug, don't you know what I mean? But I owe it to Mark for improving the stud, you know, there's no 2 ways. He has got out the hobby now. He liked to travel.
Right.
And obviously the greenies was holding him back.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's one thing you can't do, which is with a stud of birds, is have a great deal of travel, isn't it, Kev?
I mean, the thing it used to amaze me. Do you want to look at that bird? He'd lean in the aviary and pick the bird up and go.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and you know when you're talking about like running a cock over hens, he'll open the aviary and the cock comes out and he goes and flies in another aviary, and I'm going.
Trained, you've trained them. I want to see next time I come back here, Kev. I want to see you with your little stick, moving them from flight to flight. Oh, superb. Well, back to the setup here, Kev. I think we do slightly joke when we said we don't know how many, because it's organic throughout the garden, isn't it, mate?
Sheds off sheds. Yeah,
sheds off sheds. It's fascinating. It really is. Although I was slightly concerned earlier on that I might get lost, and Kev said the last visitor's still in here somewhere. Yeah, we haven't found them yet, though, mate, have we? So in here we've got at the moment, I think there's 7 flights. I think they're marked 1 to 7. That's handy, isn't it? And then a series of sort of breeding cages to the side, and I guess those breeding cages are for housing young in, are they?
Well, No, normally if one of the cockbirds is misbehaving,
Right, okay,
he's going down there.
So right, they're essentially they're prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're where you go when you misbehave. And Kev, with the greenies, so at the moment you've got sort of young hens, young male birds together, older hens and older.
But that's another thing. Young males fight.
Yeah. Okay.
And you don't put them with adult males because they're a lot calmer.
Right.
As you can see. They'll kill each other, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can't. It's not wise to mix the ages. Like, you
so
know
the
what I mean?
first thing is you keep all the unflighted males.
I think there's 6 in there and six or 7 in there. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah.
So they'll stay there
Yeah.
now, and then I mean there's plenty. There's plenty. I think we said the footprint of this is 20 by 10. Is that
It's
right?
20 by 10.
Yeah. So I reckon there's at least 7 foot in those flight cages by the height, and then 2.5 foot wide. So they've
2.5 foot, 2.5. Yeah.
See, they've got plenty of room to.
That's the number I've come to for that size is 6, or
Right.
a maximum of 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all about, and this time of year, sort of end of Feb, beginning of March. When will the greenies go down, Kev?
Start of April for me.
Start of April. So this is like the last knock-ins, really, of conditioning, final selection, and pairing for you.
You know, I do condition, but not to the extent. To me, it's temperature and light.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the one season I didn't really do a lot, and it was the best I ever had to do a season.
Kev,
You know what I mean?
do you know there's a lot to be said to that, mate, isn't there? I think as bird keepers, we kind of we try all kinds, don't we? We've got all lotions and potions and products and everything else, and we're going to talk about feeding.
It's daylight in it. It's daylight and temperature.
It is, and there's one thing, Kev, that so you know we've got the daylight tubes outside here. We've got the sort of the clear perspex roof which is covered in parts, but it's letting some natural light through. Yeah. And then it looks like you've been busy with a Sharpie, Kev, on these lights.
Well, greenfinches, they can suffer with night fright. But not only greenfinches, bullfinches, goldfinches. But what I do is I get a little LED bulb, I think these are 3 watt, and I get a Sharpie pen, and I keep colouring that until it's like moonlight, because sheds them dark inside, really dark. So if I can get it like, I'll keep looking until I've got it right, you know what I mean? So just keep adding the colour to it till you've got a moonlight effect in the shed, and it does help. It does help. Some people say that it doesn't, but I think it does.
I think anything that you can do, I know, particularly if birds are, and they are, you know, they're quite active, aren't they, the greenies? They will move quite a lot, and you can imagine if one of them gets spooked in the night, that the whole thing goes a little bit.
Yeah, they've got to be active the way I feed them, that's what I'm looking for.
And that's interesting. I mean, we will talk about the sort of the feeding regime. Greenfinches, I might be doing them a disservice here, Kev, but they are a little bit on the greedy side, aren't they?
Yes, they're definitely greedy.
And they're notoriously messy.
Messy, yeah.
Messy,
definitely.
and they put a fair amount of chunk on them, don't they?
Yeah, quickly.
Very quickly. So you've got quite an interesting regime here, haven't you, throughout this time of the year? When it comes to the greenfinch, they are, various different times a year. For the show season, you want a little bit of weight on them, but not
too much.
Not too much. For the breeding season, you want enough weight on them, but not too much.
Yeah.
And you talked as we've been off camera about the way that you feed the greenfinches, and it's fascinating.
Right.
So the first thing that you do is before the seed goes anywhere, you do a check on it, don't you? You do it.
Yeah. When I buy the seed, every bag that I buy, first thing is you're going to smell it. If that's musty, or everybody smells for the who's kept birds, I should imagine so. If that's got that sort of smell, they're not having it. The next thing I do is plunge my arm in there and see if there's any dust or the amount of dust, and if there's any rubbish. And they're not having that either, you know what I mean? So, and then I take an handful of seed, and I want 80% plus sprouting. Now I'll leave this in a sandwich bag with kitchen roll, sprayed, and I'll leave that for about a week. But if there's less than 80, I don't want it, you know, it's 80% plus.
Yeah.
That has got to sprout.
Yeah.
You know, because what we're getting now, we're getting a lot of heat-treated seed. Niger seed, we get a lot of that. And I don't think it's any good for the birds, you know what I mean? I like it to sprout.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean...
Fascinating. So there's like a 3-stage process
every time, every bag.
before it even goes in.
Yeah, whatever brand you like, but it's got to pass those
3-stage
tests.
3 stages.
You don't want to smell to seed.
Yeah. No, superb. And then the feeding regime is fascinating, Kev, because a lot of people, when it comes to their birds, and I include me in this, goes, oh, geez, I've got to feed them again. I'm blowing the husks off the top, I'm putting them in, I'm putting the drink, I put the things in there, and blow the husk off, everything else. You have a slightly different approach, which I'm admiring greatly, Kev. So we know that greenfinches do like to eat.
Yes, they do.
But yours is a twice-a-day regime?
Yeah, if I'm at home, I'll give them enough just to last them from the morning, and it'll be gone by dinner.
Yeah.
And all that'll be in there is dust. So if there's some left, I've given them too much. So it's an handful to 6 birds, something around that. And then they'll get a feed later on, tea time sort of thing. And that's got to be gone by morning. So I gauge, when I start leaving it, whether I've given them too much or too less.
Yeah.
And then you learn how much to give them. And when you catch the birds, you'll find them the weight's right.
Yeah.
You know, they're not too heavy, they're not too light, you know what I mean? So it takes a bit, you know, I'm not telling people to starve the birds.
Yeah. No, not at all. No.
You know, but once you've got it right, your birds, I'll catch these greenfinch about once every 2 or 3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
To gauge the weight.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, fat birds are going to breed nothing.
No.
Nothing at all. You're going to have all clear eggs and whatever, you know. And that's the biggest downfall. They're their own worst enemy, ain't they?
Yeah.
You know, so some people say that they don't use sunflower. I use sunflower. I just limit. Because sunflower's got a lot of vitamin A. It's got things that other seeds haven't got.
Yeah.
You know, so it's cut a little bit. It's diluted a little bit, the greenfinch mixes. But that's the way I've done it, and it works well for me, Matt. That's all I can say, you know.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of these things, that the whole point of these videos, Kevs, is to sort of pick up hints and tips of what people who have done really well with the birds, and you have done well with the birds. We see behind me there's an array, and I'm sure it's only a small array, of some of the things that you've done well and won. And out the corner of my eye, Kev, I spotted something to do with a yellowhammer. Now, when we were in one of the other aviaries up there, which we will go and have a look at shortly, everyone, you told me the story about a yellowhammer, Kev, which became, well, let's just say, a little bit aggressive.
Yeah, it actually attacked me. It flew at me. I went to ring, it got 4 young, and I went to ring him, and he was flying at my head. It was bouncing off my head. I thought, I've never had that before, you know. I've never had a greenie do that, you know what I mean? But brilliant bird, though. I mean, I had that bird for 4 to 5 years, and it reared young like nobody's business, you know. And people tell me that was difficult to breed, but I suppose it depends on the bird, doesn't it? But the thing with yellowhammers, I don't go too much, because we're talking greenfinches, but they do go insectivorous at the...
Yeah.
When they're feeding young, totally.
Yeah.
You know, so you've got to get...
Yeah, which is not without its challenges. And that was something, actually, as I was driving up here today, thinking about the greenies. Obviously, you've had lots of different types of native birds, British birds, over the years. Yeah. You started, we were talking before, you said you started with Heartbreak with Goldies and Bullies.
Oh, yeah, so I knew it was on.
You knew it was on draft, yeah. You know, you prepared yourself early on in your bird-keeping career, Kev. But to the... and this might sound like a really stupid question, but I've never been afraid to ask them. Do you give any sort of live food or anything to the greenies? Will they take live food?
Come March, because some you have to get accustomed to it.
Yeah.
So come March, I'll start to give them pinkies, right?
Yeah.
More so the ends. As soon as they're eating them pinkies, because some will refuse them at first, but as soon as they get used to them and they start to eat them, I take it off them. I know what it is when the young hatch.
Yeah.
So they'll have it for the first 10 days after the young chip. That's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So just the first few days, really.
Yeah. And then
But if you just all of a sudden introduce it, they're they don't know what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
No, absolutely. It's there for the purpose and the job. So it's back to the greenies. We were talking before. You've got some of the mosaics in there, and you've said from a time perspective, Kev, you're really looking at between 24 and 30 pairs of birds in total.
Yeah, because it gets hard work after that, Matt.
Yeah.
I have had more. You have goldfinch, bullfinch. I've got none of them now. That they've all gone. Just to concentrate on.
Although, are you going to Stafford on Sunday?
I'm going to Stafford, Matt. I'll be there. So you never know. But I thought I'd concentrate on something.
Yeah.
Now the mosaics. There is another reason for the mosaics. If I decide to leave a cockbird in with the hen, the young have jumped and the hen's going to go back down, I'll guarantee them young will kick them eggs out. They'll be on the floor, mate.
Right.
That's a guarantee.
Yeah.
So I'll get in early on the morning and the eggs out, and it's under the mosaics.
Right.
When I'm ready to set. So the mosaics will have the eggs until I'm ready, taking the young out and ready to.
And then you'll put the eggs back in under the greenie.
Get them back. So they do that job for me as well. You know what I mean? So
it's an interesting approach, that, Kev, isn't it? To that sort of surrogacy almost, in that actually they're going to hatch under the greenies, and is that because nothing feeds quite like a?
Okay, so I don't use canaries for rearing. I know people who do.
Yeah.
But what normally happens in that case is the first year, as young birds don't do well, it's the next year.
Yeah.
But when I did it in the past, I kept looking. I'm not keeping them, you know what I mean? But apparently, if I'd have kept them another year, but they never lasted that long anyway.
Yeah.
You know, they'd gone. But it's something I've never done here.
Yeah.
You know, I've never used canaries for rearing greenfinches, or if I have, I've been disappointed. You know what I mean? So, but like I say, some people say they come on fine the following year.
Yeah. But it is that sort of first year, and that's I guess the key with the greenies is that they breed. They breed for how many years, Kev? What?
Probably 4 or 5 years.
And would you do a no in so talking to Keith Ferry, Keith will put a flighted cock with an unflighted hen. Would you pair birds back together? Do you? Yeah,
young birds and I'm usually terrible, to be honest. I get better the following year.
Yeah.
Greenfinches anyway, so I'd do that.
Yeah,
I'd do that.
So that first year with the unflighted birds is a kind of
you can find a young hen and make a mess of a young bird and not do a good job of them, and the next year I'm totally different, mate.
Yeah,
they're pumping full of food, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
And that, ladies and gents, is why we love this hobby so much, because it's so frustrating. Right, we've moved everybody. We're in.
This is a safety porch, I think.
This is the west wing.
Yeah.
Of the. Is this a safety porch?
Yes. This is a safety porch.
This is.
You got sheds joining it.
Honestly, that's it. It's a safety porch, Kev. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
I think it's actually saved me some money in birds. This
I'm glad you knew that. So what we've got behind here is we've got a row of training cages, which I really like this, Kev.
Yeah.
I really like the way this is done. So this is for the colour canaries.
Yeah.
Row of training cages.
Yeah.
Just really neat, really good use of space. I think anyone sort of looking at this and wondering how you could. That's clever. That's clever.
Another thing I might do is because the canaries are white, I'll put them in here and pull it forward and put the greenies over there, so they're facing.
Yeah.
So they don't have an hour.
Yeah.
Looking at before the show.
Yeah. So they can see them. Then we've got some more sort of flight cages in here.
Yeah.
And the one thing, Kev, I love about this, and you mentioned this before. Come on in a second. You mentioned this before, is that you love empty cages.
Yeah, I do.
And do you know what?
I like room.
And do you know what? That is really important, because I've got very few empty cages because I fill them with birds. But actually, Kev, the space in here is. You've got more flights behind us in there, I think.
Oh, there's four flights over there.
Yeah, and some more flights in there as well. So there's fucking flights everywhere, everyone. It's like everywhere you turn around, there's another flight. But I think the important thing, Kev, is that there's plenty of there's a lot of space, isn't there? There's a lot of space, and sort of what with the greenies. A couple of things to say on the greenies. I know they're in the other room at the moment, but do you pair breed? I guess is the first thing, or would you run a cock over more than one hen, or do they not work like that?
No, it works fine like that. But the problem is because not being able to get the stock that you'd probably need. I'm going to get inbred very, very quickly if I'm going to run a cock over, four hens or whatever you're going to do. So if I've got brothers, I'd rather use the brothers to keep
little bit of genetic diversity going on in there.
That Matt, I knew it. So I've stopped doing it and I breed in pairs. But they don't always get on. They might, but you might have to move the cock. I mean, that's common.
Yeah.
If you come, I might have half the pairs together and half the cocks them out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that's the way I do it.
Yeah, and I think the thing that management, and I think understanding the birds, Kevin, spending the time, and that's one of the things that a lot of people go, well, I want the success Kev Taylor's had with Greenfinches over the last 10 years or so. And I want it now, and it doesn't happen like that, mate, does it? It takes time to build that.
Little bit better, and that's it's like personal achievements, in it, rather than going out and winning something. It's not. It's just that little bit better that year, that little bit better. As long as you improve it.
Yeah.
As long as you don't go backwards. I mean, you might stand still one year, but as long as you don't go backwards, and carry on improving.
Yeah. And when it comes to the greenie, we've got a couple in a cage here, which is actually in the other room at the moment, but got a couple of birds in the cage here, and they're not. you were pointed out very quickly. Look, they're not in show condition because
straight them. But, it's this time of year.
But they. Is there a certain aspect of the greenie that you're looking for in terms of stamp? So we see a lot of the greenfinch, don't we? And they've got the bigger birds. Yeah. What's really impressed me today, Kev, has been the colour on them.
Oh yeah.
So you've
that has happened more so in the last few years. I mean, we had big buff birds with him before, and people comment on that. But if your greenies are not got any colour, they're not going to win.
No.
So they've got to have a little bit of size, a little bit of colour. The old, where the big buff birds, it's just not happening anymore. So.
And I think that's sort of immediately, to my untrained eye, immediately as I came in, I was like, these greenies are green. I like these because they're green. They.
Well, that's another thing as well. We just mentioned this is more. Probably more than mouse birds, I'm affected by daylight because the feather's brown and yellow, and the structure of the feather makes it green.
Right.
So it's not naturally green, you know what I mean? So we need proper light.
Yeah.
To judge. So you might go in a dark corner of a shovel and go, they've got no colour. They've got colour.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. They do need light.
Yeah.
So that's why I bring them in here, so there's plenty of light.
Yeah, I mean, we're absolutely bathed in light here. I need to pound in my head a little bit, Kev, because it's deflecting off anyway. But it's absolutely bathed in light in here, and it almost feels like the kind of the epicenter to all the rooms in here. This is a control centre, and then with the pairing of the birds. Do you find quite a lot of intermediate feather? That's something we're seeing a lot more in the fifes. You find there's quite a lot of intermediate in there?
Definitely.
Yeah. And is that something that I know the guest talking to Phil Warner probably say that actually, and with the zebra finches with Pete Harrison, they probably say that's the real sweet spot when you've got that intermediate feather.
Got the type as well.
Yeah. So they've got that definition of shape.
A lot of yellows haven't got the type.
No.
Proper yellow, and there's, I think something Phil said, I watched that video, he was on about returning to wild type.
Yeah.
Greenies will do that. As quick as lightning, they'll do that.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep on top. I mean, if you think about it, we've only been breeding greenies of a show standard since the 70s.
Yeah.
Canaries are far longer than that.
Yeah.
So that's where, that could revert very quick. There was a guy named Alf Williams in Wales. He started. And the reason it's the 70s is not because they didn't want to, because they couldn't keep them alive.
Right.
And then they had the sulphur drugs, start of the 70s. and from Alf on to Jack Lloyd,
Yeah.
Terry McCracken,
Yeah.
bringing the birds, working with the birds and bringing them where we are now. Now, when there used to be like 4 or 5 obvious good birds in a class, and you'd go, that's that, you know. There's that many now.
Yeah.
You know, you could see a dozen birds, shake them up and go and judge them later, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of good greenies about today, and the classes are always from 10 to 40, which is decent.
Which is a really, really, really good number, isn't it? I mean, you've touched on the sort of the keeping them alive, and that, I think, one of the things that the greenie unfortunately had become synonymous with was going light, and that sort of challenge. Now, you've talked to us already, Kev, about, you know, the inputs and the environment, the natural light, the fresh air. There's a really nice air flow through all of these rooms. You've talked to us about the seed and how you prepare the seed and how you check the seed to make sure it's good enough for your birds. What I'd really like to do now, I'll put you on the spot, but it's behind me, everyone, is Kev's magic microscope, because I think one of the things that's really fascinated, you're a student of the hobby, Kev, and one of the things that fascinates me about having looked at you and your posts on Facebook and everything else is not that you've ever come across as I know it all.
Oh, nobody does do that.
But what you have come across as someone who wants to find out.
Oh yeah.
And I think that sort of studious nature, I think in the top birdmen you always find it. There is an inquisitiveness and an inquisitive nature about them. Yeah. And when it's come to the greenie and sort of, you know, the people would say, and I don't know what your view on this is, but people would say, oh, you've got to give them baycocks, you know, once a month, and you've got to clean them out, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do that. So go on, over to you.
So as the birds get better, they don't necessarily get stronger.
Right.
You know, so they're more prone to going like, not less.
Yeah.
You know, think of mongrel dogs, and, you know, they've not got that vigour. So, I would definitely use baycocks, and I'd use baycocks. I've never, some breeders give it when the young jump the nest. I don't do that. I've never done that, and I've bred hundreds of them, you know. I wait till the young 25 to 30 days, I try and get them way early. As soon as, you know, them coming out. So it's normally 25 to 30 days. Then I'm on baycocks. Where they say monthly, I'll repeat it the week after. Right, so they have the 2 days baycocks, following week 2 days baycocks, and then perhaps go to monthly. But the most vulnerable time to a young greenie is the first 2 months after parting them away from the parent. So I should say 3 months of the youngster's life.
Yeah.
It's building up an immunity. Now, by using baycocks, people say that stops them building up immunity. No, it doesn't. Because I've talked to vets about this, and they still build up immunity.
Right.
So they're very vulnerable at that time, and it's understandable, really, you know, because they've got no immunity at all, you know. So if you ask me, should you use either baycocks or a sulphur drug, and better still, the alternator, you know, get a first round baycock, second round sulphur, so there's no, the cocks is not building up, you know, immunity to the drug, or you know, so you can do that. So if I say, normally now I'm doing baycocks 1 year, sulphur drug, the next year, and just follow the directions on the box. I don't over, you know, douse or nothing like that. I keep it to a sensible. I'm probably less, even though I learn about it to use it less.
Yeah, no, I think that's really powerful, mate, isn't it? You get that knowledge in to sort of go, okay, well,
the microscope, as you mentioned. If I have a bird go a little bit off, I can prove whether it's coccidosis or not.
Yeah.
You know, or another omega bacteria or whatever, you know, I can see that.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I think most of us could do this. It takes a little bit of, I mean, everything's an alien, innit? You're looking at they've got little aliens. And it's, most of the time it's nothing, it's plant matter and things like that. But once you start, it becomes more and more obvious. You know, you're still going to have the odd thing and go, because I pick things up, don't they? You know, you go, what's that? You know what I mean? But I think it's a valuable tool.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, isn't it? I think a lot we kind of, we're hobbyists, and we kind of guess things, and we get drawn by the latest fad and phase and everything else. And actually, what you've done, Kev, is you've just kind of gone, right, okay, let's look at the science here. Let's actually look at what's going on underneath. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to pause the camera for a second and let you get a little bit of setup, and might not see anything, but Kev will just talk us through. Kev will talk us through, everyone. Stay tuned. We're going to see the side of you here and the back of you. This is a fancy little bit of kit, mate, isn't it? This is
Microscope.
Yeah.
You could use a toy one to start with, you know, to get you going.
And what this fascinates me. Is this part of the understanding, or trying to understand rather than guessing what's going on? This is about understanding what's behind
exactly
it.
That.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to know whether you've got coccidiosis or goldfinch breeders that tend to have trouble with megabacteria and siskins and birds like budgies.
Yeah.
Not so much greenfinch with the mega, it's more coccidiosis with the greenfinch. But this is a direct smear, so you need a tiny amount of droppings.
Yeah.
The dark part, not the white part.
Right.
Then you add a drop of saline. Then you're going to mix that, and you want to, that's too dark. Just keep mixing that. Another drop. Keep mixing that until you think you can see through that.
Yeah.
Right. And when that's nicely mixed, this is a direct smear. This is what you do first.
Right.
And then you'll get yourself a cover slip. Oops. So with the cover slip, don't just put it on flat. You want to put that on at an angle.
Right.
Drop it down. And the reason you do that is to push the air bubbles
away.
Right. So you've not got too many air bubbles.
Yeah.
Now with doing this, if you've got megabacteria, you'll see it. The little rods, cigar-shaped rods, rounded on the end. If they're straight, it's not megabacteria.
Right.
You may see coccidiosis, you may see worm eggs. That took seconds. It's just a matter of knowing what you're looking for.
And I think that's the key with this, Kev, isn't it? It's sort of the actual process takes seconds. The knowledge of knowing what you're looking for and being able to test that takes a long time.
From that, we do the next step. That's one step.
Yeah.
The next step, you have to do flotation, which is saturated sugar, saturated salt, or buy a commercial flotation food.
Right.
That is the best method for coccidiosis.
Yeah.
Worms.
Yeah.
This is better for megabacteria yeast. Flotation for coccidiosis, worm eggs. There's a couple other things, but you've got to do that. What you do, you fill, put the drop in, say a quarter of a teaspoon into a tub. Put your flotation fluid in there. Mix it up. You don't need a centrifuge. Birds droppings mix quite easily.
Yeah.
Then you're going to strain it. I just use a tea strainer. That works fine. Then you fill strain it into a test tube until it's convex on the top. Put the cover slip on top of that. 20 to 30 minutes. Then under the microscope, and you'll definitely know whether you've got coccidiosis within 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So but it's just practice, man. Just keep doing it.
Now, everyone, it looks like I'm in the moonlight because there's a light shining on me. This man here set himself a challenge, which, and do you know what, Kev? I think it was a really important one, because as we do these episodes throughout the Canary Room, we go to some fantastic setups, and I'm counting this as a fantastic setup. No, it is, Kev. It's a proper breeder's setup. Yeah. You set yourself a challenge of being able to build a bird room for 100 quid.
I did go 20 quid over.
You did go 20 quid over. Terribly. But I tell you what, Kev, you've got 9 breeding cages behind the camera. Yeah. You've got flight cages in here.
Yeah.
You've got nest pans set up for greenies.
Yeah.
You've bred greenies in here.
Last year.
We don't know what we're going to do with it this year, but I think what this little room shows everyone is that with actually a little bit of ingenuity.
Because it's an expensive hobby. It can be expensive.
It can be, of course it can be, mate. But actually it doesn't need to be. Because this is a nice... I really quite like it in here, Kev, to be honest. I really quite like it in here. Well, I'm going to spin the camera around and you'll have a quick 360 of it. And then we're going to go and have a look at the red mosaics now.
We can do that, Matt.
All right. We're going into another room, everyone. See you in a bit. Right now, Kev, we're in your canary room, aren't we? Because I can see canaries. Now, there are some Norwich. And you're gonna have a little mewling going on.
Well, that was the idea, but I'm just living here now. I don't know. I've just moved in.
They're living here. That was the plan, and now they're just taking up residence.
These did the same.
Yeah, and behind got some really, really nice sort of red mosaics, and
yeah, they're coming on and getting a little bit better now, Matt. That was feeders originally.
Yeah, and so what is it? Is it because they're dimorphic? Is it because they're visually? Or you should be able to sex them visually.
I like to. I thought those pretty birds.
Yeah,
you know,
they are nice. They are nice.
The thing with that is, as was explained to me, it's like a seesaw. They're either overmarked or undermarked.
Right.
So to get it exactly
Perfect.
in the middle, it's in fact, they did tell me it's one of the hardest colour canaries to get right.
Yeah.
So it's one of them things you're going to have to keep plugging at it.
Yeah.
You know, another one.
Yeah. I'm not content with having had, goldies and bullfinches, and now you've gone for, a really hard canary to try and breed, Kev.
Yeah.
What is it, mate? What is it about us bird keepers? Why do we do this to ourselves?
I don't know, man.
We think we live a life of purgatory. Do you think we must have been, evil in previous lives and we've come back in this life as bird keepers?
There is another point to these, though. There always seems to be people who want them, you know what I mean? So, they seem to move on quite easily.
Yeah, and I think that there's a serious point to this hobby, isn't there? When there are surplus stock, I imagine that, your greenfinches, if there are surplus greenfinches, they could go 100 times over.
Can't even get near the demand, I mean... I'm grateful that people want them, but it's so hard.
Yeah, and I think that the balance, when you've achieved what you've done over the last 10, 15 years with the greenies, I think the balance for people is often something that's quite hard to understand, Kev, because, first and foremost as a breeder, you're breeding for yourself.
It has to be that.
That might sound selfish to people watching this. Of course, we want the hobby to thrive, we want the hobby to succeed, but fundamentally you're breeding initially for yourself to keep and move the stud forward. The second thing, I guess, which is that actually birds aren't always available, and certainly the best birds aren't available because you need to keep them because they're the best birds. And
that tends to be what the people want, your best birds.
Well, it was ever thus, Kev. People will come into my room. I'm sure they'll come into here and go, I really like that. And it's like, yeah, it's my best one and it's going to stay here. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, he won't let me have any birds. And I think the challenge with that is that we need to, as breeders, we spend a lot of time. There's no shortcut in this hobby. Spend a lot of time trying to create the perfect bird. In your instance, the perfect greenfinch.
Well, it's a great leveller, breeding native finch. It is. You can have a bad season so easily.
Yeah.
And it brings you back to earth. After a good season. So you've got to make sure you've got enough hens, and we can always, like you say, run a cock over something now, but you got to have them hens. Yeah. You got to have them. Yeah. So.
And I think what sort of, if you don't mind me asking, mate, what sort of numbers constitutes a good season of greenie breeding? What's a good round? What's a good round out of a pair?
If I got 4 young out of a pair, I'd be quite happy for the 4.
Yeah.
But about 40 young in total would.
Yeah. That's a solid season.
Well, whenever I've done better, this is years back. I'm going, why am I saying these are hard to breed? And I've bred 70 and there wasn't any good, you know what I mean? Yeah. The more I bred and there wasn't. There just wasn't the standard. As I've got the standard or better or nearer the standard, I'm hard to breed.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly the way it is, man.
Yeah. No, it is. We're going to go and we'll leave room 15 of Kev's block. I think we might be in next door's garden. You know, do next door know you've got sheds in there?
No, I think I might have a bit of that garden, to be honest.
We won't tell them. We'll take that to the grave. Go on, we'll go back and we'll have a look at the greenies and we'll wrap up. But before I do, we'll have I'll take a few little photographs of some of the occupants in here, because this is my territory. There are canaries, everyone. I know what good ones look like. Almost, kind of. See you in a bit. Right, well, ladies and gents, we're outside Avary number 1. That's what I'm calling this one, Kev, as opposed to Avary number 65, which is in next door's garden, but don't tell anyone. Mate, listen, it has been... I've really enjoyed it. I've seen you... I feel like I've known Kev for ages, as I always do with people I meet on this show. But I have met Kev a few times at the various different shows. I've seen Kev at Stafford. He has appeared on the Canary Room before, albeit very briefly. I think I stuck a camera in your face, Kevin said, say hello, and you did. Yeah. But I think what I hope has come across today, you know, the Greenfinches... Greenfinch is a stunning bird. Breeding good ones is not easy, and it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes a setup, and I think, you know, whether it's sort of Kev's attention to detail with the lighting, whether it's his attention to detail with the seed, you know, checking the seed is good enough before he feeds it to his birds. Those kinds of things, I think, are what makes the real difference in hobbies. A lot of people want to get to the top quickly and don't want to put the legwork in. I think we've got here a man who's, you know, been very generous in his praise for those people who've helped him along the way, which I think shows you the measure of the man he is. Kev, for me, it's been a real pleasure. I still think greenies are scruffy, but I like them. All right.
That's okay, I'll take that, man.
I like them. I like them. There are some outstanding birds here. I wish you the very, very best. Appreciate your time, pal. I wish you the best for the season ahead. And I look forward to maybe coming back another time and seeing what's been bred.
Okay.
All right.
No problem.
Legend.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed the show, everyone, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell. Until next time, take care.